This is a time to honor the rule of law, not surrender to the rule of the mob.
Dear Secretary Harris, your consideration of our request to extend the deadline for final submission of this hand count until Monday, November 27th at 9:00 a.m. would be greatly appreciated.
Getting confirmation out of the Secretary of State's office here in Tallahassee has told the vote counters down in Palm Beach that the extension to that deadline will not happen.
Your request for filing an amended certification after 5:00 p.m. today is denied.
Palm Beach County Canvassing Board ended up being very frustrated because they spent days and days counting these votes.
We are here today to certify the results of the election.
The smartest thing Katherine Harris did, and looking back on it, I think it was one of the absolute pivotal moments of the whole event, was that ceremony of certification.
The certified result in the presidential race in Florida is as follows. Governor George W. Bush, 2,912,790. Vice President Al Gore, 2,912,253.
But that live coverage with the flags and the silent scratching of the pens and the leather-bound certifications, that was a brilliant tactical move.
So Katherine Harris signs those papers. George W. Bush is the winner again. It's the headline. At least it's how they believe people are going to hear it.
Having heard 3 times that Bush had won, they got the impression Bush had won and had been certified, they saw it happen, and that Gore was desperately pursuing a recount.
This evening, the Secretary of State of Florida has decided to certify what by any reasonable standard is an incomplete and inaccurate count of the votes cast in the state of Florida.
The election was close, but tonight, after a count, a recount, and yet another manual recount, Secretary Cheney and I are honored and humbled to have won the state of Florida, which gives us the needed electoral votes to win the election.
A vote is not just a piece of paper. A vote is a human voice, a statement of human principle, and we must not let those voices be silenced.
Al Gore, the fight song, which we heard repeatedly through the campaign, prior to that had been somewhat generic. Well, who was he really fighting for? Well, now he was fighting for a principle, for every vote to be counted as he said it, and for some key and important core Democratic voters.
Time is running short. The public opinion polls, now even a large chunk of Gore voters, are saying it's time to shut it down. And so so their strategy has to change now, and you're going from protesting the election to contesting the election.
So, as provided under Florida law, I have decided to contest this inaccurate and incomplete count in order to ensure the greatest possible credibility for the outcome.
The calculation was made that we're hemorrhaging, and we need to get the Vice President out to make the case that this is not over. Don't bail out yet. And to try to do that with a tone that came across as, look, all I want is to count every vote. And I'm not saying I won. I'm just saying that I want to count every vote. And if I didn't win, fine, we'll move on. That was the tone they wanted to strike, and they decided that they needed him to do it because the alarm bells were ringing.
Once we have that full and accurate count of the ballots cast,
it has been almost all Gore all the time on the television networks.
The only way to avoid having a cloud over the next president is to count all the votes.
The Bush team, during the time that Al Gore was, as they called it in the Bush camp, all Al all the time, they felt very strongly that they needed to keep George Bush. He didn't need to be out there.
On the one hand, we've been criticized for being too forward-leaning. Now you suggest maybe we're too laid back. Then I would suggest you can't have it both ways.
Appearances were very scarce. After that initial, okay, it's been certified, and Al Gore went on the offense, all George Bush really needed to do was sit back and keep planning transition, and that's what he did.